were actually on the platform right after we received our marks. We had swum last, and so we already knew it. It popped up third. We knew we were going to win a medal. Relief's actually a really good word to describe it, because you've gone, your entire career, you get to that moment, you have one shot, you've got that performance, and then you win a medal and you think, I can go home happy now. We had a good performance and we get to bring a medal home. It's relief and elation. It's funny. What you don't know is that things kind of erupt into chaos at that moment. You learn you won a medal. One of your teammates is typically selected to go do doping testing. So you got someone going off for doping testing. A couple of representatives typically go through what you call the media corral. So you get pulled into this back area. It literally looks like what you would imagine a cattle corral to look like. You walk through, there's members of the media sticking microphones in your face, you're doing interviews. And then it's for us anyway, it was a huge rush to something called the ready room, where you go back there and you're trying to figure out, okay, what's the podium gear we're supposed to be wearing? Everyone's getting changed. And then I think it was within a matter of 10 minutes or something, we were back out walking towards where we needed to go to get on the podium. For us, it was exactly like that. We waved at our families from the platform. Yeah, we won a medal. They all look happy. And then this mass 10 or 15 minutes of chaos happens. But you're giddy with excitement, or we were giddy with excitement. And so, I'm sure there was a lot, casting my mind back 24 years, there was a lot of high-fiving and secret handshakes and everything happening in that time too. It's actually, so after that chaos of getting ready, it's generally pretty organized at that point. There's usually someone that runs the medal ceremony portion. So like a manager of the medal ceremonies who comes and commands you to stand in the specific order. So bronze goes first, then silver, and then gold. So you're all lined up properly. And they walk you behind the podium. So you're actually guided by a guide too. There's someone walking in front of you. You follow them. It's fairly orderly, I would say, at that point. And then it's just time to soak it in. Yeah, I think what people don't normally pay attention to is all of the amazing detail that goes into those things about the Olympic Games. So usually, people should want to look at the Paris podium to really see what does it look like, because it usually has elements of that Olympic Games, like a style element. For a synchronized swimming team event, the podium is massive because you've got to fit 9 times 3 across the whole width of the podium. So you're standing in a lineup behind it. And I wasn't that concerned about tripping. I think at that point I was more concerned about finding my family in the crowd and wanting to wave at my husband and my mom up there. But we decided to all stand up, holding hands together, lift our hands up in the air. So to make it appropriately a synchronized team experience. And it's a pretty solid podium. They're typically made of a really solid form of usually wood. Yeah, another thing that happens is the IOC tries to assign a person giving out the medal that's closest usually to whoever won the gold medal. So in this case, it was, I believe, a Russian weightlifter, because the Russians won the gold medal. Can't remember his name, but I remember the medal being put over my neck and noticing its weight. So and my neck, I actually was still dripping wet. So I remember the wet, and swimmers would feel this too, the wetness of the ribbon against the back of my neck and the heaviness of the medal, and just picking it up and looking at it and thinking this is going to be on my wall for the rest of my life. That's pretty cool. I believe we received some kind of stuffed animal with ours. It was probably a koala. I think I was more interested in the medal itself than the stuffed animal. Not to downplay the gift that you get, but usually athletes get a gift like that on most world podiums, and you end up giving it to like a younger cousin or a sibling or something like that. So I paid attention to the medal. Yeah, not in that moment. So in that moment, I wasn't, it was around my neck, securely around my neck. I wasn't worried about dropping it. But years later, when you start going to schools or going to corporate events and people are handling your medal and they drop it, because you do hear it drop, then it freaks you out. So there's a class, like my medal, you know what another thing actually is? The ribbons themselves are stunning. They usually reflect whatever the design of the games are. And one thing that people don't know is the medals always have some unique element to them that it relates to the games itself. So for Sydney, it was these 1 and 2 cent out of commission Australian coins that they had melted down to make the medals. And so they wanted to say that every Australian had touched the medal before you put it on. So yeah, but at the time, back to your original question, wasn't concerned about dropping it. Then you do, and this happens, I think, in almost every medal ceremony, you generally do a lap of the venue of wherever you are. So you walk around, there's media taking photos. So we did a lap around the 50-meter pool in Sydney, and people cheer you on, and you're allowed to wave I remember we were passed over a flag and we were waving a flag, and there's a photo that was later made into mouse pad, like, you know, those old things, that reminds me of that moment. So actually 48 hours again of continued insanity happened, because our team final event was the day before the closing ceremonies, and we went back to the village, and then to, I think, the CBC studios or some TV studio, did interviews, and then stayed up all night celebrating. There used to be a McDonald's in every Olympic village, kind of the mess hall, the dining hall. And we went and celebrated having a Big Mac, which was very incongruent with the typical diet of a Olympic athlete. So we celebrated with that. And then, just stayed up. I think we ended up playing board games. So the medal is on a frame on the wall of my office at home. And my sister-in-law was kind enough several years later, tired of me pulling the medal out of random drawers in the house. She said, let's just put this thing up on your wall. And she framed a few medals from my career, and we have those up in my office at home. Usually once every 4 years, when the Summer Olympic Games come around and people want to see the medal again, and my kids are now teenagers, and they've only just for the first time shown an interest in wanting to see it. And so, take it out for family members or friends of, or kids of my friends to show them. But yeah, once every 4 years. Yeah, actually so I used to do a lot of speaking engagements like that, like many athletes do after their Olympic career. They, go out and talk at schools and so on. And so I would take it, back then I was taking it around all the time. And I remember hearing clink, 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 clink in one gymnasium, and a gym teacher coming to me holding a broken medal. So it had broken off the clasp that attached it to that beautiful ribbon. And I had to take it to a jeweler and get a new clasp put on. And let me tell you, that jeweler was really honored, but incredibly nervous. I mean, he said, I can either fix this or I'm going to melt it.